This is tragic, unfortunately, what has happened. Innocent lives are always um, sort of tragic to think of, what price people pay for what is not their fault at all.
Yes.
Really.
And sir, there is also something to the method of indiscriminate, rather even take your pants off firing,
Sure.
which lends itself to a brutality
Yeah.
that is much beyond just ideological hate. There is, I think the method conveys more violence than we suspected to initially.
True.
I think it's particularly gross how this has happened. And I'll lay context for people a little bit. We met about 3 days ago to talk about national security. We did a podcast I titled National Security 101.
Right.
But it became completely defunct as thunderstruck yesterday.
Absolutely, yes.
Right? There's no way to talk about national security without including now this event.
Absolutely.
Right? And we even discarded Pakistan as being a recessive player. We were like, they're not really in the fold anymore. Primary enemy is China. So I had to get you on back to talk about
No,
this.
it still is, but this is what I was saying, that they will have this nuisance, they have a nuisance value. Unfortunately, it is a desperate act of a state which is failing, which is flailing. The Pakistani army needed some kind of a
Brownie point situation.
brownie point, and also needed to have something which can invite retaliation from India, an overreaction from India, which will then allow the Pakistani army chief, who's a rabid mullah general, to try and rally the Pakistani nation behind him. Right now, the Pakistani army is at its lowest ebb and lowest image, if ever there was, as far as the country is concerned. They're getting abused by their own people, which was never the norm. They were always the last bastion of Pakistani identity. And because they're being abused by people, their credibility is at stake. They have done this, is my first immediate reaction to what has happened in Pahalgam.
I want to go a little more step by step.
Sure.
Take a couple of minutes, sir, and introduce your work to people. I think it is much more important in this context.
Well, how do I introduce myself? I've been...
Allow me. Allow
Okay,
me.
do that.
I think the right way to introduce you for this conversation is you're the founder of Bharat Shakti, and you spent almost a career's length of time working on national security within the scope of journalism and within the scope of analysis. So you are some kind of an expert on the field.
Well, I'm a practitioner. I've been doing this for 42 years, looking at militancy, insurgency, terrorism, and the militaries across the Indian subcontinent, if not the larger context. And I understand that terrorism has its ups and downs. There are graphs that go up and then they come down. There are desperate attempts by people who fuel terrorism to revive that. Or when there's a tail end of terrorism somewhere, then all these acts of desperation which seem inhuman completely, and which reminds me of what the Pakistan army had tried to do or had done in then East Pakistan, later Bangladesh, where something similar they were doing, asking people to show their religion or prove their religion, and killing people in cold blood. So something similar, they are just following that thing. And I believe this Pahalgam attack is a Pakistani army attack and not a terrorist attack, because it is completely sponsored, initiated and backed by the Pakistani army.
Are you saying it is sponsored in the sense of money, or are you saying that the people involved are Pakistani military? Are they affiliates, or are they part of the main force?
They are affiliates in the sense they are SSG, the Special Services Group of Pakistan. They are ex-soldiers who later join the Lashkar-e-Toiba, which now, in fact, the thin line between the Pakistani army and the Lashkar-e-Toiba, which is their prime, and Jaish-e-Mohammed, which is their two prime terrorist organizations, is vanishing very clearly. So former soldiers of Pakistani Special Services Group, like para-commandos or special forces like India has, they then become members of the Lashkar-e-Toiba, and then they carry out these heinous acts as they've been doing for the past 5 or 6 years.
And sir, why do you think that is the case? Like, do you have any reason to believe, or is there some phone call you got, or like how do you know?
No, nothing of the kind. Just look at the tactics that they adopted, the kind of clean operation that they carried out. They knew exactly what to do, where to go. They chose an area where there was no security presence. It was a pure tourist spot, but away from the road. There was no road access. So you were in a meadow, which is large, where you can only walk on foot or ponies. They knew exactly that there were going to be tourists. They're going.
Please.
They're going to be tourists. They're going to be innocent tourists, unarmed tourists, and they chose their targets. They killed people after asking them their religion, or when they failed to read the kalma, as they called it. Eyewitness account of a lady is doing the rounds on social media. You would have seen.
Yep.
And when she said, "Kill me and my son," also they said, "We will not kill you. You go and tell Modi that we have done this." Now, this kind of a discipline, non-indiscriminate firing and targeted killing of people happens only when you have disciplined soldiers or well-trained, well-equipped, well-motivated ex-soldiers, okay, but soldiers nevertheless, who carry out. And then the exit was smooth. There was absolutely no one to stop them, no one to prevent them from going out. And obviously they had planned this with very meticulous planning over the past 7-8 days. They would have kept watch. They would have seen if there's any security presence or not. This is not the level of training or level of discipline that terrorist organizations have. And therefore I'm saying this.
So there is no emotional savagery. There is almost this strategic cold-bloodedness to the whole act. And that can only be executed by a disciplined group of men. And that seems to suggest that they are ex-service groups.
They are.
Right. And is there... Actually, can you do me a favor and pull up that woman's account? Pune. This woman is from Pune. And her father was shot.
I think.
Her father or her husband is shot.
Husband. She said.
Yes.
She said, "My son, you can shoot me and my son also." But they said, "No, you go and tell Modi that
you survive this.
That you survive.
There is no passionate killing suddenly at all, and they knew only to target the men.
Correct. So in the victims list, if you see the 26 names that are there is no woman victim.
Right.
Those who are killed. They're only men. So the men were targeted with specific objective to strike terror, so that these children and women will go back and be haunted, and they will sort of create an atmosphere in the country where people will be angry, they will be thirsting for revenge, they would like the blood to be spilled on the other side.
And I feel like there's a strategic angle to that too. I feel like they want us to respond. But my question, sir, is how do these people get access to our territory? Like, is the land border at the line of control this porous that people can walk?
Not necessarily. See, from the preliminary reports, there are two local terrorists involved in this. I remember one name, Adil Thakur, if I'm not mistaken, and some sheikh. Now, they are their local guides. So they have these linkages. They would have come inside via various routes. You could come from Nepal, you could come from the porous border along the LOC, which could be anywhere. And then you merge in the local population, you get local help, support, and then you start wrecking the place. You choose your targets and you do that. So therefore, it's not about porous border. It's about lying low and willing to also sacrifice yourself. So suppose they were caught, they would be willing to sacrifice themselves. They would be suicidal.
Would they have like cyanide or whatever?
Something of that kind. They would have done that.
Right. They would have had to, and they are very willing to do that.
I haven't seen LET, Lashkar-e-Toiba terrorists carrying cyanides, unlike the LTTE, the Liberation Tigers of Tamil Eelam. But they are willing to die, like in Mumbai attack in 2008, that they will fight to the last bullet and then get killed by the security forces. They don't mind that.
It's a unique kind of ideological possession.
It is.
Where self-sacrifice has been elevated to the level of divine...
Yeah, because they've been promised in their doctrine, indoctrination in the camps that aap Jannat jaoge. You will go to heaven. You will get your... that's not the word to use, Sanskrit word to use, moksha. But you will get your salvation if you do this. And there is this social media memes which also talk about आपको जन्नत में हूर मिलेगी 72 हूर मिलेगी.
Right.
That kind of thing. So motivation is something that happens in their indoctrination, in their training, and they're willing to just give up their life.
How have the last 24 or so hours been for you? I'm sure you're talking to people on the phone. I think you as a professional are probably getting a lot of information and tip-offs that are not accessible to the media. Tell me a little more than I should know.
I am not an active journalist anymore in that sense, what I would have been 10 years ago or 11 years ago when I was with a news channel. But certainly one assesses the inputs. Like I was watching the lay of the land on the videos that are available, photographs that are available. Now I see the Home Minister having visited that place. I see, the policemen getting there. And having visited those places in the past, I put together a visual picture, a visual map in my mind. And I said that, it was the most convenient target to come and, carry out this attack. So that's one. Second is, you have to go back a week maybe, when General Asim Munir actually had a intemperate rant talking to or addressing the Overseas Pakistanis Convention.
Asim Munir, Overseas Pakistani Convention, huh?
Where he said that we are not same people. Muslims and Hindus cannot be together. He also propounded the much, I would say, maligned and much discredited two-nation theory. And we said we have our own culture, we have our own way of conducting ourselves. We should not forget that. Our आने वाली नस्लों को ये भूलना नहीं चाहिए कि पाकिस्तान क्या है. And ultimately he said the Kashmir issue is a jugular vein, which then is like a dog whistle to the sleeper cells, the people who are active inside Jammu and Kashmir, to now start doing this. So, it's all falling into place. So, this is what I'm learning from different people. And also, like I said, he's desperate to
make a name for the army after it lost its credibility.
To recover the army's bad name over the past 3 or 4 years, especially 2 years when he's imprisoned Imran Khan. Imran Khan is the most popular political leader right now in Pakistan, but he's been jailed by the army, and therefore people are abusing the army. They are losing their battle in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. They are fighting a losing battle on the western border with Afghanistan, where the Taliban has turned against them. And they've never had it so bad in the Balochistan province, where the insurgency is now gaining an upper hand against the Pakistani army. And they feel, the Pakistani army generals feel, that behind all this is India. And India was getting away with doing too many things in Pakistan without incurring any cost.
Is India behind all of this?
I have no proof, so I can't really say.
But is that because we are on this side?
No, not really. But see, it's like this. India, you have to contrast the ideologies on both sides of the border. India has never been an expansionist power. India has never sought anybody else's land. If you look at history, even going back 5,000 years, which I'm not going, even you look at what has happened in modern India after 1947, India has never sought to go and occupy others' land. In fact, India is the only country which liberated a province of Pakistan, created a new country called Bangladesh, and walked away from there, the Indian army and the Indian state. So, therefore, I'm saying that it's not necessary for India to do all this. We have our own problems, we have our own strengths, we are a larger country, we are a rising economy, we are a rising power, our status is rising. We don't need to do all that. Pakistan needs to do all this because they have no other reason to exist. Their entire existence is based on, especially the Pakistani army's existence is based on pure enmity with India.
It is actually an understated fact that countries very often operate from their foundational myth. If you look at America's foundational myth, freedom, justice, all of these things, they do it to an extreme, right? They will get into other people's war to justify freedom and democracy. Yes. And, sure, you can play your cartoon stuff. Then if you look at Pakistan, it's a very unique concept. It's very different from almost any other because there is no basis for Pakistan except Indian Muslims in pre-independent India feeling like they would not have enough representation.
Sure.
Which is a notion, which is hypothetical.
It's a two-nation theory, like I mentioned. It's a discredited theory.
Right. But Pakistan gets what it wants based on that politicking. And because of that reason, their foundational myth is that we are not India. Now, if the charter of your organization in the first sentence states another organization you are competitive with, it's more than just Betal on the back of Vikram.
Absolutely.
It's a cancer because anytime you go down on the stock market, you have to justify yourself by pouring more into India.
Absolutely.
The second thing people don't realize about Pakistan, and I think Pakistanis, at least abroad, are very objective about it. The shadow state of Pakistan is Pakistan's military.
Absolutely.
Right? I think people of your profession understand this.
Yes.
I think the common Indian does not understand how deeply ingrained what they call the establishment, which is the military part of Pakistan's population, is in the functioning of the government. Almost all leaders have either, prime ministers of Pakistan have either emerged from the military or have been puppets of the military.
Puppets of the military mostly. Nobody, except General Musharraf and Ayub Khan before him,
Yes.
have been military leaders. But I mean that that joke which they say that every other country has an army. The Pakistani army has a country.
Yes,
which is a common joke and which is rooted in reality, in that sense.
Right.
So the other thing that one has to understand, and Pakistan's, like I said, very existence depends on Pakistani armies. Very existence, its budgets, its getting the money, getting help from even the United States sometimes, from China, is based on enmity with India. I'll give you an anecdote from nearly 12 years ago. 2013, I was on a track 2 with the Pakistanis, my first and the last track 2 with the Pakistanis. Because
What's a track 2?
Oh, track 2 is dialogue between think tanks, intellectuals, media,
Fair.
like that. And it was organized by an American think tank called New America Foundation. Very famous journalists Steve Cole and Peter Bergen had organized this in Dubai. And the session that I was speaking in was about can the two militaries, Indian and Pakistani militaries, and this is 2013, mind you, January 2013, can have CBMs, confidence building measures. So I was doing a presentation. I was the second last speaker. There were two recently retired Pakistani brigadiers on the other side. And there was the famous Najam Sethi, who was a Pakistani senior journalist, well-known intellectual. He was going to speak at the end of the session, after me. So in the course of my presentation, I said, the Indian military has started reorienting itself towards China. And it sees China as a bigger challenge and bigger adversary in coming years. It knows how to deal with Pakistan. It has dealt with Pakistan. It has defeated Pakistan 4 times, 5 times. So it doesn't need to really, do much about it. I mean, it's there. It's like a monkey on our back. And therefore, what confidence building measures are required? One of the brigadiers stood up in the middle of my presentation and said, wait. We are your enemy number 1, not China. So that was 13 years ago.
Freudian slip level, yes.
It is. But that was 13 years ago when there was still engagement. There was the diplomatic relations still existed at a higher level. There was this Aman ki Asha, Tamasha that was going on. All that was happening. Now, in the last 10 years, when India has completely sidelined, ignored, deliberately chosen to keep Pakistan away, that anger and that anxiety of not being recognized or not being engaged by India, which is rising, whose status is rising, and which is in their view becoming a Hindu majority state, which it already is. I mean, it is a reality. It's a Hindu majority state.
It always has been
a secular Hindu majority state.
Yes, demographically we've always been.
Exactly.
Yeah, right.
But they can't tolerate this, and so you can imagine the anger that must be there in the Pakistani army, because there is no engagement, there is no trade, there is no there is a absolutely minimal diplomatic engagement. And India's, as I said, rising status in the international forums is clearly a matter of heartburn. So what you're seeing now is part of that, because they can see it slipping away.
Right.
This entire
Kashmir issue.
We've done Article 370, which was never dreamt by Pakistan, and they never thought it will happen.
Right.
And this entire equivalence that Pakistan wanted all the time.
This is no perceived equality.
Perceived equality is no longer, it doesn't exist anymore.
Right.
So therefore, I'm saying that there is much more deeper reasons. There are many more deeper reasons than just killing people. That manifestation of all this that I've just spoken about.
Right. I think this is the year 2022 when Imran Khan, who's probably the most popular Pakistani leader in modern times, was... Well, from the outside, it seemed like he was just unjustly taken by the military and put in the jail. And people were on the streets. They were attacking barracks for a while. They were attacking the military.
Even the army military installations.
And I remember, sir, I was either at university or just finished with university. And there was a very prominent Pakistani intellectual on the campus. And he'd organized an event. He was in the journalism school. He'd organized an event, or he'd done something within an event to sort of tell Pakistanis, hey, listen, don't get so anti-establishment. And I was speaking to a couple of Pakistani people and they were like, we had to give him his place. And this is a very unique sentiment that the Pakistan, because they were very anti-military at that moment. When Imran was taken, they were very, very anti-military.
Yes.
And so they had lost a lot of the shadowy control they had on the population. And I think we did speak about this for a little bit in our now different conversation. Yes. That this sort of creation of desperation, if you really take a state that's central issue is Kashmir, which is a symbolic representation of their fictional war with India, right? Kashmir is at the very center, the crown jewel of their sort of foundational myth. If you take it and you relegate it and then they keep spiraling downwards, they keep losing control, desperation is going to get the better of them. So, sir, is this some kind of like a false flag situation where like the Pakistani army...
No, so I don't know what you understand by false flags. False flag would have been from an Indian side if India had initiated this and blamed Pakistan or tried to blame Pakistan. That's not the case. It's clearly a Pakistani operation. And the fact is that Pakistan, like I said, is feeling completely desperate and it wants to re-establish its, the whole, I would say, ideology in Kashmir, or at least demonstrate to the Kashmiris that we are there with you. But it's not about Kashmiris either, because if that was the case, they wouldn't hit at the tourist infrastructure,
right.
where people's livelihoods now are at stake. I don't know whether you saw that. There are cancellations after cancellations that are happening, that where bookings were done in hotels, restaurants, shikaras, houseboats, all that. People are moving away. There are extra flights that have been sent to Kashmir. So this season, at least, for the ordinary Kashmiris who are dependent on tourism, and almost 2 crore Indians and non-Indians or foreigners have visited Kashmir over the past, every year that is, and now they're not going to go there. So it's going to affect everyone's livelihood. But this is a red line that they have crossed. And it shows how desperate the Pakistani army is.
Bro, अगर ये सुन के आपको मजा आया किसी भी एंड तक, अगर आप यहाँ तक देख रहे हो तो मजा आया ही, ठीक है? अपने आप से बात मत करो फालतू की. एक काम करो, सब्सक्राइब. Trust me.